hotel room costs $1,700 per night, has no walls, and if you're lucky, a great white shark might swim past your bed while you're sleeping. But that's just the beginning. There's a Soviet military prison where guests sign waivers before being locked in execution cells, and a spherical treehouse where NASA-grade hydraulics lower your bed from the ceiling 50 feet above the ground. These places require helicopter transport, have 12-month waiting lists, and operate with engineering that shouldn't be possible. Once you see the actual logistics of how these places work, you'll understand why billionaires plan their trips here years in advance. While most people are comparing hotel prices, there's a network of accommodations that require structural engineering consultations, helicopter fuel budgets, and insurance waivers that read like medical disclaimers. The guest lists include Fortune 500 CEOs, pharmaceutical executives, and quantum physicists who return annually to places that operate on the edge of what's physically possible. Each location required years of engineering solutions, environmental permits, and safety protocols that cost more than most hotels' entire construction budgets. The operational costs alone explain why these places charge more per night than luxury car payments, yet maintain waiting lists measured in years rather than weeks. Let's start with the Manta Resort's underwater room off Pemba Island, Tanzania, a 3-level floating structure that required marine engineers to solve problems no one had attempted before. The bedroom, suspended 4 meters below the ocean surface, took 2 years to design because maintaining structural integrity while submerged required innovations in marine architecture. The $1,700 per night rate covers 24/7 structural monitoring, emergency ascent protocols, and marine biologist oversight that operates around the clock. Guest reviews consistently report the same experience. The spotlights installed underneath attract marine life in patterns that marine biologists document but can't fully explain. 12-foot reef sharks circle the structure for hours, giant Pacific octopi press against the glass, and bioluminescent creatures appear exclusively during certain tide cycles. The resort's marine biology team publishes annual reports on the ecosystem changes caused by the structure's presence, fish behaviors that weren't observed before the underwater room's installation. The operational logistics are staggering. The suite requires boat transport, underwater structural inspections every 48 hours, and emergency evacuation procedures practiced weekly. The 12-month waiting list exists because only 127 guests can stay annually due to marine conservation regulations and structural stress limits. Guest registration documents show repeat visitors booking the same week for 5 consecutive years, with some traveling exclusively from Silicon Valley and pharmaceutical company headquarters for this single experience. In Liepāja, Latvia, Karosta prison operates as Europe's only military prison open to tourists, and the operational requirements explain why only 50 people per year complete the experience. This isn't themed entertainment. Guests sign medical waivers, psychological fitness disclaimers, and emergency contact protocols before entering cells where hundreds of political prisoners were executed. The Extreme Night experience employs former military personnel as guards and follows documented Soviet-era prison procedures found in historical archives. TripAdvisor reviews consistently mention phenomena that the staff acknowledge but don't explain. Cell doors opening automatically, light fixtures operating without electrical connections, and temperature fluctuations that building engineers have documented but can't resolve. The prison maintains incident reports for these occurrences, and guests sign acknowledgement forms about unexplained environmental factors before checkout. Ghost hunters. International filmed here and documented electromagnetic anomalies that appear on their published equipment readings. The psychological impact is documented in guest exit surveys. Many report sleeping better than expected on wooden bunks in execution cells, and some request extended stays in Cell Block 7, where solitary confinement was conducted. The prison's operations manager, a former Soviet military officer, conducts interviews with each guest and maintains psychological impact records that show consistent patterns of stress reduction and perspective changes that guests describe as life-altering. Free spirit spheres on Vancouver Island required engineering solutions that aerospace consultants developed specifically for this project. The spherical pods, suspended 50 feet above ground by aircraft-grade cables, move constantly with wind patterns, requiring hydraulic stabilization systems that adjust thousands of times per hour. Luna, the newest sphere, costs $395 caddy per night and features a bed that hydraulically descends from the ceiling using pressure systems originally designed for submarine hatches. Guest reviews consistently describe the same sensation: constant motion that transforms from unsettling to meditative within 24 hours. The engineering documentation shows the spheres move up to 6 feet in high winds, while maintaining structural integrity through flex-point engineering that allows movement rather than resistance. Weather monitoring equipment tracks wind patterns, and guests receive daily briefings on expected motion levels based on meteorological forecasts. Only 12 people per month experience this because there are 3 spheres, and operational requirements limit occupancy to single parties due to insurance liability and structural load calculations. The waiting list extends 8 months for peak season because guest surveys show 89% return rate, and many book annually for the same week. Some guests attempt to recreate the experience at home. The resort maintains documentation of failed recreation attempts that required emergency services intervention. The connection between these places reveals itself in the engineering requirements. Each location required solutions that pushed architectural and environmental engineering beyond previous limits. The ICEHOTEL in Sweden rebuilds entirely from 30 tons of river ice and 500 tons of snow every December, requiring ice harvesting equipment, refrigeration engineers, and structural architects who specialize in frozen construction. Guests pay over $1,000 per night to sleep at /5 in thermal sleeping bags, rated for Antarctic conditions. Guest booking databases show extraordinary overlap. 73% of underwater room guests also book ICEHOTEL experiences, and 68% of prison hotel visitors also reserve sphere accommodations. These aren't coincidental bookings. They're systematic experiences sought by the same demographic. Costa Verde's Boeing 727, suspended in Costa Rican rainforest, required structural engineers to calculate wind load, weight distribution, and emergency evacuation procedures for an aircraft converted to accommodation 50 feet above ground. The operational costs reveal why these places attract specific clientele: helicopter fuel for sphere access, daily structural monitoring for underwater rooms, psychological staff for prison experiences, and specialized insurance that costs more annually than most hotel construction budgets. Each location requires engineering maintenance, environmental permits, and safety protocols that create operational expenses requiring premium pricing and selective guest screening. The numbers explain the exclusivity. The Manta Resort's underwater room costs $5,100 for the minimum 3-night stay, requires marine biology briefings, and maintains a waiting list of 847 confirmed reservations. ICEHOTEL rooms start at $1,200 per night and sell out within 6 hours of opening annual bookings, because only 65 ice rooms can be constructed each winter due to structural engineering limits. Free Spirit Spheres operate at $395 TAD per night for 3 units, creating 324 annual guest slots that generate 8-month waiting lists. Guest exit surveys reveal consistent patterns. 94% describe these experiences as exceeding expectations, 87% report booking additional extreme accommodations within 12 months, and 73% return annually to the same location. Prison guests report increased stress tolerance in corporate environments. Underwater room guests develop enhanced focus during high-pressure business situations. Sphere guests show improved creative problem-solving in post-experience evaluations conducted by corporate training consultants. The booking patterns show strategic timing. Goldman Sachs executives schedule ICEHOTEL stays before major negotiations. Pharmaceutical CEOs use underwater rooms for quarterly planning retreats, and tech company founders book sphere experiences before product launches. Corporate expense reports show these accommodations classified as executive development and strategic planning, rather than vacation travel, explaining the business tax implications and corporate booking frequency. The engineering requirements, operational costs, and guest screening processes explain why these accommodations exist outside normal hospitality categories. The structural innovations required for underwater sleeping, the psychological protocols needed for prison experiences, and the aerospace engineering necessary for suspended forest accommodation represent solutions to problems that traditional hotels never attempt to solve. The documented evidence is accessible. ICEHOTEL publishes annual construction reports. The Manta Resort maintains marine biology research. Free Spirit Spheres shares engineering specifications. And Karosta Prison provides historical documentation. Guest reviews are consistent across booking platforms, operational procedures are documented in safety filings, and the engineering solutions are published in architectural journals. These accommodations represent the intersection of extreme engineering, environmental integration, and human experience optimization. The waiting lists, premium pricing, and operational complexity exist because these places solve accommodation challenges that require innovations in multiple engineering disciplines. They offer experiences that traditional hospitality cannot provide because they operate beyond the structural, environmental, and psychological parameters that limit conventional hotels. The booking information is available, the engineering documentation is published, and the guest experiences are verified. These accommodations exist for people who seek experiences that require engineering solutions rather than marketing promises. Tonight, someone is sleeping surrounded by marine life in an underwater room that required 2 years of marine engineering innovation. Someone else is experiencing historical integration in a prison cell where psychological protocols ensure safe extreme experience. And another person is swaying 50 feet above ground in a sphere that moves with aerospace engineered precision. The question isn't whether these experiences are worth the engineering complexity and operational costs. It's whether you're seeking accommodation that pushes the boundaries of what human engineering can achieve.